And so I did a story yesterday on why the Cowboys should not be afraid to draft Ashton Jeanty with the 12th overall pick, because I think when people talk running backs, they talk value and they say, hey, that's not a good place to get value. But I think this year might be an exception, because if you look at where Jeanty is in terms of ranking prospects currently, that's a top 5 player in the draft, right? That you could potentially get at 12. The other thing about this, the Cowboys have one running back, or 2 now, coming back. Deuce Vaughn, Malik Davis. Those are your 2 running backs that are under. Those are your 2 running backs under contract, which means you're going to have to do something at running back. And if you also look at this free agency market, and I thought this was kind of fascinating when I looked it up today, here are the names of some of the free agent running backs out there. JK Dobbins, Aaron Jones, Javonte Williams, Najee Harris, Nick Chubb, Alexander Madison, Rico Dowdle, to name a few. Where would Rico Dowdle rank on that list? And what could that market generate be? This is the kind of the question I'm wondering. Because if he's going to get more than $4 million a year, potentially, then you know what? How much Ashton Jeanty is going to cost at with the 12th overall pick? He'll in his first year
about $4 million,
$3.5 million cap.
Okay, I think of the names you listed. My gut is that Aaron Jones is the best of those, but Aaron Jones is 30 years old, and that's probably he probably about to go. If Nick Chubb hadn't destroyed every body part 7 times, like he was incredible. JK Dobbins, same thing. Pre-shredded knee, he was incredible. Rico might be the best player you named projecting forward. Like Aaron Jones is better than him today, but how quickly do things happen when you turn 30 at running back? So yeah, that might be a get Rico back in here sort of deal. And I mean, if Aaron Jones was cheap, I think Aaron Jones would be a great guy to have there with a rookie. My thing with Jeanty, here's where I struggle with Jeanty a little bit. He's a stud. He's awesome. But when you're talking about, let's say, the first 3 rounds of a draft, and you say, I'm going to pick, I don't know, on their needs, Joe, give me 3 big needs, and one of them has to be running back, so that we can figure out
for the Cowboys.
Yeah, give me 3 needs. Yeah. One of them's running back.
Defensive line, wide receiver 2, guard, and running back. Oh, sorry, 4. They have a lot of needs. Yeah, defensive line, wide receiver 2, and running back.
Okay, so like if I took an offensive lineman first, I'm probably taking someone like Kelvin Banks at Texas or Will Campbell at LSU, assuming one of them makes it to number 12, right? I'm picking a real-life first-round lineman. I feel good as a rookie starter that he's going to be out there. Then in the second round, if I pick my insert other position here, and then in the third round, I take whoever's there out of Ohio State's Travion Henderson, Nicholas Singleton, who you might have watched last night play for Penn State, et cetera, et cetera. What is better for my team winning at football? Getting a guy that I think is going to be a good starter on the offensive line and then whatever, and then running back, or going Jeanty and praying to God that the offensive lineman that I pick can help me as a rookie. That's the hard part about running back is I want an awesome one.
That's not hard. That's not a hard thing to think about. It's really not. It's really not.
You're just saying no. You're just saying don't take one.
What I'm saying is that if going off what you just presented, that's not a hard thing to think about. What's going to benefit my team long term? It's getting a good offensive lineman. It's getting a good defensive lineman. Like while Jeanty may have some really good qualities and have the potential to be a stud, if you're telling me that I can get a really good offensive lineman that's going to help my team for the next 10 years, or a really good defensive lineman that's going to help my defense for the next 5 to 8 years, I'll take my chances with Rico, and I'll take my chances with said running back in the 4th or 5th round, or Javonte Williams, or Cam Akers, or, well, not 4th round, 5th round, or whatever it may be, a free agent that comes available. That's not a tough question because, again, we're talking about building a good football team that's going to be built to last. If you don't have a good offensive line, Jeanty will be fine, but this ain't the Mountain West. You don't have a good offensive line. There's only so much that Jeanty's going to be able to do. Listen, I know Mike McCarthy has Tom Pelissero. Jeanty and his organization might have Joe Hoyt on the hook too. They might have Joe Hook.
That's because he tore up Oregon.
He did tear up Oregon.
They may have Joe Hook. They may have Joe Hoyt on the hook too. I'm just saying. I'm just saying without saying. I just think the question that we're asking is, what will make this football team better? Football team. I think that's securing an offensive line. That's because now what you have is, if I get a good offensive line, my quarterback's better. If I get a good offensive line, now I got more time for my receivers to be better. And now if that happens, you and I both know, all of us know, that the running back that I have behind me, if that's all flowing, that'll come along with it. That the lanes will be opened up for that.
I think I hear what you're saying, but also I think if you look at the Cowboys offense this year, what happened when they started to get a running game going? That's when it opened up other things for the offense. I think Dak Prescott, in terms of play action, that might be his best friend. And I think that if you kind of ignore the running game, frankly, which I think there's a possibility of doing in today's NFL, then I think that you're hindering yourself. I think look at what the committee.
You don't need a running back to have a good play action. You don't. You need
to have some kind of threat, though. You can't have Zeke.
Actually,
you can't have Zeke back there running for 2.5 yards a carry.
You don't. Right. Well, I'm not saying Zeke. You don't have to have Ashton Jeanty in the backfield to get a good play action. You just don't.
No. And I think in today's NFL, you can find running backs in the 3rd, 4th round that can be good. But Jeanty might be a sure thing. So
actually, in the nerd world, that's something that I actually find really, really interesting, because what Jesse is saying technically is true. Like, people have tried to find correlations to things like how good you run the ball. Does that affect how successful your play action is, et cetera, et cetera. And no one's found a correlation. So, like, in theory, you don't have to be able to run the ball for play action to work. It just works. I do. Part of me does wonder, or like, I'll just turn against my own people, the nerds. I do think if you have a top 12 pick, a a dude back there that people are like, oh, they have so-and-so back there. I can't not think that defenses are thinking and worrying more about him, whether he's getting the ball or not, that it's easier for your offense in some way, because they're like, well, they got him. They want to give him the ball, and they're thinking that somewhere, but I can't prove it. I still think I believe it, but I can't prove it.
But if I'm whooping you up front, I don't have to commit more guys to the line of scrimmage.
Sure. And I guess one of the questions would be, how good is the Cowboys offensive line? Because Rico did end up having a good year. If Rico can get 4.6, Jeanty can get 5.5. I mean, he is better than him. I don't know. It was a weird year for the Cowboys. I think I'm mostly against it, because I just go to, like, Saquon Barkley is the perfect example. People want him to be the MVP, 2,000 yards, all this. Yeah, the year before he averaged less than 4 yards a carry. I want a great running back. He doesn't get to be great unless you let him, unless you have the dudes to let him. Jahmyr Gibbs is not the same Jahmyr Gibbs without that Lions line. David Montgomery is not a all-pro, Pro Bowl or whatever without that Lions offensive line. The guys who we think about having the great running back seasons are the guys playing behind those lines. They also happen to have really good running backs. We're going to find one. They're going to pick Jeanty. Get ready, Jesse. They're going to pick Jeanty.
We all silly like the mayor.